start it up and see if it works. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are once again working on the 3800 supercharged wide body Fiero. We are installing Innovative Motorsports wideband gauge setup. I got this kit on eBay. I have one of these in my turbocharged Fiero, and it works quite well. We've got cables for data logging, tuning, so you can hook this up to your tuner. Here's our oxygen sensor that we have to install in the exhaust. Here's the bung for said oxygen sensor. And we have different gauge faces and installation instructions. Alright, so with this kit, I'm thinking we're going to keep it with the black face, black trim. I don't really want the white gauge face. So, out of the back here, this is your, power ground, dimmer, all that stuff that gets connected in the car. And then this connector is the one that goes to your oxygen sensor, and you get a very long 8-foot connector. So the oxygen sensor plugs in here, and then this other end of the cable right there will plug into the back of the gauge. So we have to run this cable through the center console of the car out to the engine bay, and then the oxygen sensor can plug into that. And the gauge is going to get mounted in here where the narrow band is already mounted, right here. So we have to get the wideband gauge in here, then we'll hook up the power ground, the dimming, we'll run the cable through the center console. So we got to take this off, shift knob, the shifter plate, the center console piece here, armrest, get this all out of the way so we can run that cable back to the engine. And then after we do that, we'll go to the engine bay side. We've got to figure out a good spot in our exhaust to mount the oxygen sensor. We will drill a hole in the exhaust, weld the bung in, and then after that, we're pretty much done. And it'll just be taking it for a drive to see how it works. Let me get started here, and I will get the gauge mounted up there in the pod, and I will get back with you. Alright, got the gauge mounted. It's wired. We just have to run this cable here through the firewall. I want to run it through here where the wiring harness goes through. And the end that goes in the car is smaller, so I'm going to have to go from the engine bay through to get in here. We'll run it down along the console, up, follow this vacuum line up, and then the plug is back behind here, and I can plug it in, and then we just have to mount the oxygen sensor. See if this thing turns on when I turn the key on. That it does. Awesome. So with this, the red wire was power, the black wire was ground, the white wire is the signal for when the headlights are on to dim it at night, and the yellow wire is an analog out if you're using like a aftermarket ECU or for tuning, so it can see what your air fuel ratio is also. So I didn't use the yellow. The red went to red, power, switched, the black went to ground, and the white wire I just pinned into 12-volt power too, so it's always dimmed because it's pretty bright even in dim mode. It's going to be able to be seen during the day, but I don't really want to be blinded at night because the directions said not to hook it up to the rheostat because that could damage the gauge. It was just supposed to be like a 12-volt signal for when the headlights were on. So yeah, let's get this wire run. I'll try to figure out how to get it through the firewall. And then once I do that, we'll just have to sort out our oxygen sensor mounting, and we'll be done. We can take it for a drive. All right, so I was able to get it through here. It's run up and plugged in back behind the center console. Now I just got to get the center armrest and all that back together, and then we can put the oxygen sensor in the exhaust and we're done. Alright guys, the interior's back together and we're here under the car. And here's our factory out O2 sensor. We need to weld the bung for the wideband gauge in here. And it says within 24 inches of the collector. Well, there is the collector right here. So I think this exposed piece here would be a perfect place to put it. If we go over here, we've got our oxygen sensor. It's got a pretty long lead. And then we have the bung to weld in. We need to drill a hole in the exhaust here. The 3 o'clock position, which would be pretty much straight in there. And then we can weld the bung in. We'll put the oxygen sensor in it, get the wire run up, and we'll be done. So let's get going on drilling a hole and doing some welding. Alright, it's in there. Not the prettiest welds ever. It's kind of like trying to weld the Grand Canyon on one side because I couldn't find my step drill bit. But it works. So now we just gotta put the car down, plug it in, zip tie the wires up so they don't get hung up in anything, and then we're done. So let me get the car down. It's installed. Crappy welds and all. I got it zip tied up here to the fuel lines, and then it goes up behind this heat shield right here, and it stays away from the exhaust that's connected up there at the top. So we'll put the car back down again and start it up and see if it works. All right, we're down. Everything is buttoned up. Let's start it up. Let's see if it works. Right now it's running the heater on the oxygen sensor to get it up to temp so it can get accurate readings.
If I would have read the directions, I would have seen that you were not supposed to have the engine running until after the sensor calibrates. I figure this one out later.
Maybe I shouldn't start it first.
Duh. A little late now. I have to go and disconnect the sensor, turn the key on, then turn the key off, reconnect the sensor, and then let it calibrate.
Let it run its calibration run. Alright, it's installed, everything's hooked up, I've calibrated the sensor. Let's start the car up here and see if it works. So, as you see, it works. band 1 where it sits there bouncing around. It gives you an actual reading of what is going on. So that'll be nice. It'll help me make sure I'm not running too lean with the smaller supercharger pulley, and if I am, I can modify the tune a little bit. And then as we do more stuff to this engine, it'll help. We'll know how to tune it, be able to adjust fuel. So I guess the next step would be to take it for a drive. Enjoy the drive, and I will see you guys on the next one.